All right, everybody, come on in, come on in. Welcome back to another Wild Card Wednesday. We're doing a series, Let's Talk with Maggie and Lucy, now also on the podcast shelf on YouTube. I am Maggie the substitute teacher. You may know me from my cooking channel. I make food and femininity content. Lucy and I, my bestie, we are the proud founders of the Finishing School for the Modern Woman, which is a privately taught Saturday school where we teach ladies of all ages about elegance, etiquette, and femininity. And as our way of giving back to the community, we like to come on here a couple of times a week with you all and react to different relationship content. So, Lucy, please introduce yourself and let us know, what are we watching tonight?
Hi, Maggie. Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Lucy. I have a very tiny channel that mostly has evergreen content. And this year, I decided to focus the content on about things about femininity, etiquette, elegance, and items that impact. Oh, you heard the dog in the background? Sorry. Impact women over a certain age. But as Maggie said, we meet on Wednesdays and Saturdays to share a little bit of our wisdom. And I thought that this topic was a good follow-up to the one we talked about last week, which was about the lady that was in financial trouble and some of the terrible decisions that she was making. And now we're going to see, in addition to that, we're going to see how we, as consumerism reaches us, we want to make an amazing event in our weddings, and it gets us into trouble for the most part, financial trouble for the most part.
Yes, absolutely. So today we are going to be reacting to a video entitled Wedding Debt Epidemic Must Be Stopped in 2024. This is from Zach Rios. So Lucy has shared this with me. I'm going to play the video and we're going to pause and react to it. So you're a couple disclaimers here. As always, I have linked the video in the description if you want to watch it without our commentary. It's about 26 minutes, so you can watch it and make your own conclusions. But we will play and pause and give you our feedback as two older women, hopefully teaching the young. The other thing also over here, we both have traditional backgrounds, so we believe in husband and wife, man and woman, boy and girl, mom and dad. You are free to do whatever you like. You probably want to do it over there because you won't be happy over here otherwise. All right, so we'll tell you our thoughts, and then we'd love to bring you all into the conversation. So please share what you're thinking in the chat. So let's go ahead and begin. I see you all coming in. I'm going to mute myself and share my screen, and let's get into today's video.
Fades into the background of your life.
Hey, I'm just a broke teacher and I have a wedding to pay off. So if you would just watch this video and...
Marriage is not going to last if it's just for the beautiful wedding.
Okay, so today we're going to be going a little bit more in depth on a specific type of debt that I've seen more and more videos on TikTok be about. We've gone over a few stories in the credit card debt videos, but I wanted to deep dive on this topic, and that is marriage debt. Now, specifically the wedding. With stories that I've seen online, videos, posts, comments from you guys, it is increasingly common to pay the price of a brand new SUV for a one-night party. And we're not talking about the ultra wealthy. We're talking about normal, everyday people taking out loans, going into massive debt to begin their marriage, which you'll see in a little bit does not bode well. But we have a lot of clips, a lot of stories to go over, along with some of your comments from previous videos. So if you want to be featured in a future video, leave it down below. But we're going to start off with this clip.
I have seen multiple TikToks that people are taking out personal loans for their weddings. And as someone who works for Zola and the wedding industry, I just want to say, please do not go into major debt for your wedding. you and your partner and family should come together, be like, here's what we have to put forward, and then work within that budget. You're able to cut corners and skimp on things that may not mean as much to you, signage, napkins, things like that. But some of the bigger payments are going to be your vendors. Now, since I work at Zola, we have vendors send us in like advice and things that they want couples to know. And one of the main things that I did see from multiple people was that they will work with you for a payment plan. Additionally, sometimes you can go to these vendors and be like, this is my budget, what can I get for it? And there's no shame in making it a long engagement so you could save up and do these payments over 2-3 years. You are on your own timeline. All right, so please stop taking out personal loans. Love you, bye.
Okay, so I agree with the first half of that video and then disagree with the second half. First one, if you're taking out major loans for a wedding, it's just out of the question for me. Not even in my thought process. I think that's ridiculous. But especially with social media, it's become an increasing competition to see how elegant a one night party could be. Posting it online, the videographers, all the fancy stuff. And because of that, these companies like the one she works for just make so much money off of you. But then the second half of the video where you could work with them for 2 to 3 year payments for a wedding, that seems even worse than any of the car payment videos we've talked about. At least you have a vehicle that could get you from point A to point B. The day after your wedding, it's all gone other than the photos and possible video that you'll get from hiring a videographer for a lot of money too. So I think in general, payment plans or taking out loans at all for a wedding is ridiculous. We have a comment from one of you guys. Screw the wedding, trip for 2 to Cancun. You pay the hotel to throw you a little wedding ceremony that isn't a giant production, and then you just enjoy your honeymoon. I don't understand why that hasn't become way more common. 20 to like $50,000 is pretty common for normal people now for a wedding, one single night. Like if you had that kind of money to spend, wouldn't you just have an unbelievable vacation slash honeymoon? I mean, for $40,000, $50,000, you could be gone traveling the world for like months. But it seems like a lot of people want to spend all that money for one single night.
The amount of times I've heard girls say, oh, I just want to get married.
All right, so let's stop here and unpack. But before we do, let me say a huge thank you so much to Mrs. Crow T. Shetty coming in, stream sponsor at $20. She says, for the beautiful ladies, thank you. We have to say thank you for the support and all of you all. All right, so yes, I saw the topic. I saw this comment from the condemned. Folks going into debt for weddings, getting loans for weddings in this economy. Let this madness end. So when I think about this topic, I had the same visceral reaction. I had no idea that people were taking out loans, spending $30,000, $50,000, $75,000 for weddings. So ladies, let's pump the brakes. And let me just start by saying, I get it. If you have always seen yourself as a wife and mother or looked forward to marriage, I understand the dream that we have as little girls. I'll speak for myself, for being married one day. And I had this conversation with my man. Didn't go so well, but I'm here to share with you all how we can all improve. And I said, but for women, those of us who are marriage minded, oftentimes this is kind of like the man who wants that sports car, and I'm a boy mom. So they have this car in their mind that one day they're going to have, and they've been dreaming about it for a long time. He said, yes, babe, but the key difference is a man will wait until he's able to afford it. And oftentimes that's when he's in his 50s or 60s and everybody's saying he's had a midlife crisis, but he's actually delayed what he wanted because he knew that he wasn't ready and he had other priorities. Maybe he had family, maybe he had other responsibilities. So here's my point, ladies. Both Lucy and I have over 40 years combined marriage experience. And I will say this, I'll go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off. I was married at 25. I had I'll say big church wedding. But when I think back to that day, besides my family, and I think we had about 150 guests, I probably would not invite anybody if I were to remarry again. I can't think of anybody from that day that I would want to go through that stress and big plan for. When we think about weddings and when we think about the commitment that we're making before family, before our God, community, it's really a solemn and a sacred statement. And the other thing that my man told me is that we are all trying to copy the royals, but we are not royal. So I'll say this. When I was married, my ex-husband's family paid for the rehearsal dinner. My family paid for the catering. Other than that, we saved and we made it work. I wore a secondhand dress. I had silk flowers. We belonged to a church that married members for free and printed our own invitations. So ladies, believe me, pick one thing that you want to splurge on maybe, but do not go into debt for a wedding. What would you add, Lucy?
I remember playing with our Barbies, Barbie and Ken, and making them, go, marry and do all the marriage stuff. But I don't know if it's unfortunately for me or fortunately, being an introvert, thinking about walking down an aisle with a big dress, having people look at me, that was a nightmare for me. So it's hard for me to relate to somebody that would spend so much money to invite so many people for one night and not be practical about it and say, you know what, those $20,000, I could spend them in, I don't know, a down payment for a house or, like he said, a nice honeymoon. I think that most of you know that I was married before. My first marriage was to the Justice of the Peace. Uh, my parents were already here in California, so my parents weren't even involved. That's a long story, whatever. Second marriage, it was only my parents, my aunts, my sisters at the Justice of the Peace. We had a dinner afterwards and we had nothing to worry about after. He gave me this house. He built me this house as a gift. So there's nothing else I can ask for. But again, it's that practicality that I don't know if it comes with um, maybe with age or just seeing that you see your significant other work so hard and you're going to ask them to pay for something that really in the end you're only going to remember little bits and pieces. It's just one night. What matters is what happens after that big wedding. So again, it's hard for me to relate to wanting to be um, just out there with with a wedding, but I can see that it's happening, and it's about keeping up with the Jonases. Your friend having a great wedding, and you want to have the same or better. So it's just something to think about, and I think that as if you're planning on marrying, your husband or your significant other is going to say, is she practical or is she going to, be a spendaholic? That is something that it's important to look at.
Absolutely. And we'll get back into the video. And I don't know the statistics, but some of the people who spend lavish amounts on these weddings, when they come back, there's so much tension in the marriage. The marriage doesn't even last 6 months or a year. And then you have this debt. So let's go back in and see what he has to say. And I'd love to see what else you all have to say in the chat.
Married for the wedding. Like, the wedding is just so beautiful. I want like the dress and everything. Girl, are you crazy? Don't get married just for that. Because you can very easily get trapped in a situation that you don't want to be in 10 years from now. I feel like you really just want a photo shoot. Book a photo shoot. I don't know, go to JCPenney or get in contact with a local photographer. Get your photo shoot. If you still want to spend a lot of money, like, you can spend money on the photo shoot, but marriage, like, do you want the guy that you're marrying, or you just want the wedding? Because the marriage is not going to last if it's just for the beautiful wedding. Like, just have a party, just throw a party.
Now, I don't think that's a majority of cases. I feel like that's a very small percentage. But say if you actually did do that and then you believe that you were trapped several years later, even though that's 100% you're doing, I think that one's pretty interesting. But from what you could see from a lot of TikTok users, and some of them I'll show you in this video, it does seem to be an increasing competition, the same way like lifestyle influencers will make it look like their life is perfect. You know, they're constantly going on vacations, they are beautiful, they have all of these brand deals, they make so much money. It's kind of the same way for a lot of weddings now for just normal everyday people. And then we start seeing these comments and these statistics because of it. Funny, these people that spend thousands on a wedding then get divorced in a year. We spent $30 on our wedding and going on 45 years. Real quick, I actually know somebody and went to their wedding, I think almost 2 years ago now, that cost $50,000, and within 6 months they were divorced. So again, it's not the perfect example because it is a depreciating asset, but when you're getting to those prices, like, would you rather have a single wedding night or a brand new SUV? Like, that's how much money this is starting to cost for people. And then you start seeing these statistics. It's no surprise, a lot less people are getting married now. We're not even comparing it to, like the 40s and 50s where that's just what you did. We're talking about 25 years ago, and in every age bracket, less and less people are getting married. You could see how much the marriage rate has plummeted starting from the 60s and see how quickly it's gone down. And I mean, this is one of the contributing factors. But then, of course, like we've talked about with the issues with social media and overconsumption and advertising, when you sit on your phone all day and you're scrolling, and this is the kind of stuff you see where it's, oh, it's funny, look at how much money I still owe from my wedding vendors, even though when clearly it didn't seem like the wedding was yesterday. So she's still paying off a bill, basically like a car payment or a mortgage, but you get nothing in return. You already got all of the experience and the party, and now you're just left with the bill. But again, you keep seeing these videos, looking at the comments here, still paying mine off a year later. You guys looking at each other like, worst part of having a wedding. And then she responds, not a good way to financially start off this marriage, even though I think it's just widely known one of the biggest factors of divorce is money troubles. So right off the bat, you're going to start off this marriage in debt, even though it's one of the biggest reasons why people argue, and is only going to get worse unless you both have really, really good jobs. And then at that point, you wouldn't be going into debt at all, so you wouldn't be in the situation. But with what we've seen with rent prices going up, cost of living in general, these normal people that are getting themselves into $40,000 of debt just for a wedding aren't making that much money, and now their dollar is having to be stretched even more just to survive. So if you're going to put yourself into that much debt immediately, it's basically just shooting yourself in the foot for the marriage to actually last. But from this same person, I think a lot of people are like this. A lot of her page is just dedicated to her wedding and all of the photos, and she liked the attention that she got from the pictures and the videos. I could almost pinpoint where you could see that she wanted the attention and all the crazy amount of debt for the elegant wedding, because one of her engagement videos got over 2 million views. So she got that dopamine hit, just like we've seen with a whole bunch of other people making crazy content online. They get that one taste of attention and the dopamine, and then they really want it again. So they'll post more and more. And it's kind of the same thing with weddings that I've seen. Or they'll just see other pages getting a whole bunch of attention and they want to jump on the bandwagon and they want to get it too. And then they make videos like this, opening all your wedding cards and counting the money so you could finally pay off your credit cards, not even the marriage. So initially, again, talking about the debt and the issues with divorce because of that, having to bank off of the money you're getting from the attendees to your wedding to pay off your debt. Not really a good start to that marriage either, but these haha funny relatable TikToks really do put this kind of stuff in your brain, and it's almost just cute. It's funny even though it's major life decisions and something that could alter it for several years if you have to pay back a whole ton of money. That means no emergency money if the car breaks down. That means no vacations. It just seems ridiculous to me for one single day. Spending $15,000 on a wedding just to get divorced 6 years later, at least like I said earlier, in my experience, that's much better than what I saw. It was $50,000 and it only took 6 months for all of that to be a complete waste. But still, $15,000 is clearly a ton of money. Another comment from you guys.
All right, so I want to unpack this. I love that he said we are regular people. None of us are royalty, right? So why do we have these ridiculous notions that we need to have these lavish weddings. So again, ladies, especially young ladies, take it from me. One of the saddest experiences that I had attending weddings, and my eyes were open. I went to a friend's wedding, had this beautiful wedding in Atlanta, overlooking the skyline. I don't know how many hundreds of dollars per plate, and all of the things, the bands, just everything, 8-tiered cake. And another friend asked to ride with me for the wedding. And so we went, we ate, we drank, we were merry. And then as soon as we got back in the car to leave, the friend that I brought with me got on her phone and proceeded to call anybody who would listen to basically talk about the whole service and who was there and who, can you believe this, and the bride, and they didn't even have this, and it was a cash bar. And it just, the joy that I felt being there genuinely to celebrate for friend number one, the whole car ride. And I remember just looking at her and saying, like, can that not wait? So my point is, ladies, all of this that you're putting yourself and your husband to be through is for people who really do not care. And it's a sad truth, but it has to be said. The marriage is so much more important. I see the comments here. Some people are getting married. Thank you, Suave D. Some people are getting married just to have the day. But ladies, I'm going to tell you, like, Mister told me, if you wouldn't marry him with just a gold band, don't marry him. If you wouldn't marry him with just a simple courthouse ceremony or family private ceremony at church, don't marry him. If you wouldn't marry him, this is what he asked me, would you marry me if you couldn't post anything about it? So if you would not get married without making a big spectacle about it, you are not setting yourself up for a relationship that will last. And the statistic that he gave about, ladies, we talk about this all the time. The men that we want, a lot of them are turning away from marriage. So if you have an opportunity to have a man that is marriage minded, that is willing to work with you, I say have something small, simple, go live your life. And then I'll probably argue for a big party at the 5 or 10-year anniversary. All right. What would you add, Lucy?
Good point. And for the most part, men are not into all this stuff. If you notice, every time a bride is planning the wedding, the guy doesn't even want part of that. So why would you want to put him through that? Plus the money that he's going to have to spend for something, again, that has zero return on investment if you think about it. The people, for the most part, are going to, after the wedding, they're going to complain about the chicken being too cold, about not enough drinks, about the service was horrible. So why would you want to put yourself in that just to show others that you love each other? I mean, you show that by your actions, not by a big wedding. Again, and with the economy the way it is, I think that men are going to be very selective when they start seeing where your priorities are going. And if they see you going out of town with the budget for a wedding, it may not end up well. So just think about it, be practical, and ask your future husband, do you really want to do this, or do you just want to elope? Probably they're gonna say, let's elope. And that's okay too.
I love that. So yes, ladies, we'll get back into the video. This is one thing that I did. I would challenge you all. Here's your homework assignment. If you have a man, if it's serious, if he's marriage minded, ask him, what is his ideal wedding? Ask him, what is his ideal place to live? Ask him, what is his ideal vacation? I think sometimes, ladies, and we have to admit, because we're selfish and we have these grandiose ideas of what we want because it's our day, because it's all about us. Have you ever stopped to think and ask your man, what is a ceremony? What is a wedding ceremony that you would like? And I'll tell you, mine said just something simple with family and then have a big party afterwards. You know, people just bring like potluck style. So for me, and I'm thinking, wow, that's way off from the big catered production that I would probably think of. But you know what? I can do that at any time. If the day is about us and the marriage is about us, wouldn't I want my future husband to enjoy it just as much as I am? Or does it have to be everybody can kick rocks and I'm the bridezilla and I get my way? So I'll challenge you ladies to ask your man and see what he says. Let us continue.
Don't get married to a girl that makes less than you. You have to pay alimony, you have to pay the wedding, you have to pay the honeymoon, you have to pay the divorce, you have to pay 2 lawyers, and yes, hers as well. She will chill in your house and never have to work again after she's bored of you. Now, this is a very red-pilled, almost black-pilled comment. So I mean, yes, pretty extreme, but I do understand because a good amount of this comment actually what happened to my dad. So this isn't something that comes out of nowhere. It's a 1 in a billion story. This stuff does actually happen. And hey, if you want to get married, I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but immediately putting yourself into debt, starting problems on day 1 of the marriage is definitely not the way to start. And with so many stories online of people having similar experiences to this, it's not really a surprise why the marriage rate has gone down and there's less relationships in general. We're not even just talking about actually being married. Most people wanting to stay single right now. All of the red pill content, all of the feminism content, basically man versus woman on all of these dedicated YouTube channels. And if you look them up, there are tons and tons of people who watch massive channels. So a lot of people agree with each side and what they say. When you can't fathom how people aren't stressed by debt, but remember you got a nose job and had a luxury wedding while in student loan debt. Probably one of the worst types of loan debts as we've seen in the past. Oh man, and I mean the comments, debt shouldn't stop you from living your life and accomplishing your goals. Her goals was to get a nose job. I will die on this hill, and that's why these people will be in cycles of debt forever. Credit card debt, interest loans, nonstop, having to be in the hole. But me and my boobies and May 2024 wedding, absolutely no regrets.
I got married 2 months ago and I'm on a financial recovery journey to rebuild my savings. The goal this month is to spend less than $1,000 on non-necessary items. I usually buy my lunch every day on the weekdays. This week I got a sandwich every day and it was about $15 a day. My ClassPass plan kicked in for the month and I got 68 credits for $139. I had an early Saturday, so I got coffee and breakfast from Starbucks. My newest obsession is crocheting, so I went to Michael's to get some supplies and then a smoothie after working out. I'm noticing on average I spend about $200 a week, which is okay, but next week's my birthday week.
Oh man. So she has no money 2 months after the wedding. Again, nobody cares about it. That 60 days after, who's even talking about it anymore? Anybody who came to the wedding, it's not like they're still texting going, oh, that was a great night 60 days ago. Then she said, oh, then she said she had to spend way less just to start building up her bank account, even though she ate out every single day. She got the Starbucks and the snacks, and then got a whole bunch of yarn from Michael's and more fancy drinks. And then she said at the end it would be even worse coming up because it's her birthday. And then you wonder why people stay into debt forever. And honestly, I'm on the side that skipping the Starbucks coffee like every day or every other day, whatever people get, it won't just magically make you rich, even though, yes, it is pretty expensive. But if you do have some money, it's not like it's going to be the game changer between you becoming upper class super wealth and being a normal middle class person. However, from her wiping out her savings account and still not having anything saved up months after the wedding and spending all of this extra kind of money, even though she's intentionally trying to live frugally, what does it look like when she actually has a little bit of money? I bet she spends a ton. So that one to me was just too far. But we have another comment from you guys. What?
All right, so I want to talk about this one, you all. 2 points. So this woman who was doing the video said that she is on a financial recovery plan from her wedding. Ladies, a wedding should not require you to financially recover. We have made the case for having something small and simple because really nobody cares. Even if they act like they do, they'll either be talking about you during or after, or when you're still paying it back, they'll be moved on with their life. But the issue that this really stems from, like Lucy said, the video that we talked about last week with the woman who was in $100,000 of student loan debt, it really speaks to your decision making and how you handle resources. I think it's no coincidence that a lot of marriages that come after these 30, 50, and $75,000 weddings don't last, because usually there's a spender and a saver in the relationship. Usually that's how it goes. So ladies, if you show that you are reckless with resources, it starts with the wedding and it goes downhill from there. If you watched her little vlog, she ate out every single day. She had to go pay for a sandwich instead of making one. She got a Starbucks every single day instead of making her own brewed coffee at home. So this is someone that money just burns a hole in your pocket. And this is right after she said, I'm on a financial recovery plan, but you're spending every day when you don't have to, and warning us that your birthday is coming up. So bottom line, ladies, remember I said the men that we want, they watch how we behave, not only for right now, but it speaks to how we are going to behave in the future. And that's really important. Condemn says there was this guy on Instagram who did a post stating he charged family and friends $1,000 to attend his wedding after he spent $200,000 on it and no one showed up. He was trying to recoup. It's just a complete shame and unnecessary. What would you add, Lucy?
And I tried to put myself on the other side of that relationship with the lady that was, was limiting her daily eating habits. What does the husband say when he sees all that spending? Is that money coming from like the general fund, the house fund? How are these finances? How were they talked about? Do you have different settings in finances? It would be interesting to see the man's perspective on seeing the wife, first of all, tell to the world how a little less responsible she is with her money, and then him showing him being kind of like a fool because he's not keeping track of what the wife is doing financially. So it's really interesting how she has a channel and she's sharing her financial decisions to the world. What does the guy think?
I think that's the sad story, is these women don't really think about anybody else other than themselves. And that's the selfishness, ladies, that keeps us making bad decisions. Let's go back in.
Weddings. We got married in one of the gardens at the hotel that I'm not going to pronounce because I'm probably going to say it wrong. The trip was our honeymoon. Justice of the peace, $35, best $50,000 we never spent. Again, I thought marriages were supposed to be to marry each other and become one family. But from what I've actually recently saw from TV shows about 25 years ago, I was rewatching Friends in the background, when I'm doing work. I haven't watched that show in forever. And there's almost an entire season, if you did watch that show, that is completely based on two of the characters getting married. And it seems like the woman's entire existence was to just talk about the wedding and the vendors and all the crazy stuff and how much it was going to cost and just all of the stuff we've talked about. And when the man she was supposed to be marrying made a joke saying that it was all this money for just one single party, she looked at him and said, well, if you keep calling it a party, you're not going to be invited. And it was supposed to be a joke, haha. But again, that starts to plant the seed that this whole marriage is supposed to be for the wedding and the party and not actually marrying each other. And that was 25, 30 years ago. I think the show was around the late 90s, early 2000s, so about 30 years. And it has just become exponentially worse with the amount of advertising and social media we consume now all day, every day. It's not even just sitting down and watching a 30-minute show. You could get hours and hours of this footage if you just keep scrolling. And then we have the classic, this is becoming a regular on the show, the paying off debt trend. So now it becomes your problem for somebody making poor financial decisions. And then we just have this guy begging for bogus TikTok views and engagement to try to make money off of TikTok to pay his debt from his wedding.
Hey, I'm just a broke teacher and I have a wedding to pay off. So if you would just watch this video and comment how many reps I do of push-ups or something like that, or share it. Can you share it, please? That'd be great. But the rest of the video is me doing push-ups.
That is some top tier online content. Thank God I watched that. I swear, people will do anything but take responsibility for their actions. They'll beg people online to somehow pay off their tens of thousands of dollars worth of debt. And I've said it every time we've shown it. TikTok basically gives you no ad revenue. You need to get an unbelievable amount of views. And I'm not even talking about, millions of views. It needs to be tens and hundreds of millions of views to get a sizable amount of money off of TikTok. So just begging people to watch and comment and share the video, please, it'll help me. Like, you're not going to make any money off of it. You're just a beggar.
You want to know why millennials are so poor? Why we can't afford houses? It's because of all the fucking destination weddings we're making each other go to. It's not the boomers' fault, dude. It's fully our fault. Like, I could have put a down payment on a very nice 2-bedroom house in Bozeman, Montana for the amount of money I've spent on bachelor parties and weddings alone the past 2 years. The worst part is, it's never like an easy place to get to. The wedding is always in a ranch, on an airship docked at the top of the Nepalese mountain. I swear to God, the next day the date is going to say, please join us on our dream wedding in 1905 Tsarist Russia. Use code LOVE for 5% off the time traveling ticket. Like, get the
That was pretty good. And I thought,
Oh my goodness. All right, let's unpack this one. And Swadi, you are so welcome. You've been so consistent with us. So thank you. Thank you. Enjoy your wrench. All right, so a couple takeaways on that one. So ladies, we have to understand, just like we talked about last week with the woman who was in student loan debt, just like these colleges and organizations that are so eager to give us money, they don't care whether we get the degree or not, because they are going to get their money. So you have to make the best decision for you and your financial future. Likewise, the same applies to these weddings. Ladies, you have to understand it is a business. All right. So the people that we hire, the organizations that we hire to plan it, to cater it, to do photography, and I love all of that, but you have to understand they are not here to make sure that you have the best start to the marriage that you're going to be in for the next 50 years. You are a schedule on their calendar. You are a booking that will pay either upfront or over time. So knowing that, I want you to take some of the emotion out of these decisions and make a more logical decision. And again, my advice would be to pick one thing that you really want to do nicely. Maybe it's the food, maybe it's the flowers, maybe it's the photos, but just be modest. I love what Swavdi is saying here. Keep it simple. An elaborate, expensive wedding is not necessary. There's so much, like he said, content on social media. People are trying to outdo each other. And at the end of the day, the sacred moment that you all are coming together and leaving as one is lost in all of that. The second point that I wanted to make, the rant that was in that last clip with the man who was saying he is tired of being a guest to these elaborate weddings. And I never thought about that. You know, back in the past, those of us that were getting married or the families would invite people to come, just come as you are. Maybe people brought a gift, maybe they didn't. But the fact that people are being asked to travel to elaborate places, spend thousands of dollars, and, you know, usually there's a time in your life when at that age, a lot of people in your circle are getting married. It really adds up. So that's helping me to be more mindful and considerate about other people. Maybe we just do something simple and then send some pictures, but do not put a burden on yourself and do not put a burden on your loved ones just because you got to show everybody I can do it too. What would you add, Lucy?
Yeah, and that also shows the lack of consideration for your friends. Not everybody has the same. You're not. They're not in the same income bracket as you're pretending to be. Hopefully, if you're asking people to travel to, like, I don't know, the Cayman Islands, or the Amalfi Coast, it's because you have the money to make something that elaborate. And then you're asking your friends. Before, it used to be that if you invited people to somewhere, you were paying for the ticket, for everything else, and all they had to do is show up. Now you're asking people to pay for the trip, to pay for the attire, it's a real inconvenience, quite honestly. And how many of your friends are going to say, no thank you, that's too much? Because again, you're putting a burden on them when it should be something that it's easy. If it's a gathering somewhere at a restaurant, or a friend's backyard, or your own backyard if you have a house, that is, make it easy for everybody and for yourself too.
I love that. And I'd love to hear what you all's wedding experiences have been, or if you're planning to do something modest, maybe some ways that you're saving that others can learn from. Sinji says, just saw this. All I can say is be reasonable. We budgeted and did an all-inclusive wedding ceremony under 7,000. He negotiated it. So yes, ladies, you can ask. And that's his advice. And he said, also consider doing a weekday wedding. Justice of the Peace, they did that first, and it was reasonable. That's wonderful. I went to a friend's wedding. She had a morning wedding. It was like an 11 a.m. wedding. And so the food was light brunch bites as opposed to a huge, you all know these $150, $200 per plate weddings. We can't afford that. That's not who we are. So let's stop pretending. All right, let's go back in.
The comments were funny because it is very true, which at the same time is very stupid to me. The thing is about destination weddings is that they invite you as a courtesy, hoping you don't go. So what's the point of having a wedding anyway? Isn't the wedding supposed to be the party of the families and friends getting together? So why would you go super far away to have virtually nobody show up because it's so expensive for them to even get to your wedding, let alone the gift and the dresses or the suit that you have to wear? What's the point of having it then? Again, spend no money on the wedding and have an unbelievable honeymoon slash vacation and just disappear in Europe for like a month or two. I feel like that would be much more fun than any single party, even if it's in Hawaii or some crazy place like that. As an old millennial, my last destination wedding was in 2012. I get invited to more divorce parties now. Surprising, you wonder why more and more people my age don't want to get married at all. Here we have some articles, some graphs, so we could go into some statistics instead of just people's experiences on TikTok. 31% of Americans who have attended a wedding in the past 5 years has taken out debt to do so. That's not even 31% of the people getting married. That's 31% of people just going to a wedding. That's insane to me. 45% of newlyweds went into debt for their weddings, and it's causing marital problems. Shocker. Who would have thought? We got a lot of stats here. 45% of Americans 18 to 53 who were married within the last 2 years went into debt for their wedding. Almost half. 76% of newlyweds who went into debt say they argued about wedding-related expenses with their partner. So you're starting arguments that wouldn't have existed if you didn't spend so much money just trying to get married. Nearly half, 40% of newlyweds who went into wedding debt said money caused them to contemplate divorce, starting something from nothing. 1 out of 2 people thought about calling it quits just because of the amount of money it cost for the wedding. 36% who had wedding debt say they argue with their partner about money often. 4 in 10 newlyweds who didn't go into debt saved monetary gifts they received, compared to just 10% with wedding debt who put their cash into savings. Instead, 40% of couples with wedding debt used the money to fund their honeymoon. So when they were already in the negative from the wedding, they still took a bunch of the money that they somewhat got back from the gifts and just dumped it right back into a nice little vacation. Most worth it wedding expense wasn't the wedding itself, nearly 27%. It was their honeymoon. Again, the vacation I think would be awesome. 45% of recently married Americans did not discuss debt with their partner before getting engaged. So you have no idea if you guys are on the same page, and we'll just add on into one of the reasons why there's so much divorce. Here you can see a quick graph of what was most worth it for the wedding, which I thought was pretty nuts that the videographer was only 2%. If anything, if you really wanted to have the elegant wedding and all the crazy stuff so you could put it online and show off how much money you spent and how beautiful the dress was in the cake and blah, 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 wouldn't the photographer and the videographer be one of the most important things for all of the pictures that you hang up on the wall? And I mean, the video could actually show the entire venue instead of just snapshot images of what happened. You could see everything like it would be a vlog on YouTube. So I thought that was very interesting. I feel like videographer and photographer would probably be the second most important thing, but I guess I'm wrong. But now in 2023, the average cost of a wedding is $35,000, excluding the engagement ring, by the way. So you're adding on at least $1,000, if not more. Of course, you could go absolutely through the roof. You know, rings and jewelry could get unbelievably expensive. This I thought was very interesting as well. In Japan, Joihatsu, I think, probably said that wrong, refers to people who disappear due to pressures of failed marriages, debt, and job loss. They abandon their lives and live anonymously off the grid. Specialized companies called night movers assist them in vanishing completely. So I know this is on the other side of the world, at least if you live in the US like I do, but with all of these issues with marriage and divorce and just increasing the probability, especially getting into debt, there are people who will disappear off the planet and live completely off the grid because of how embarrassing that whole ordeal was. Pretty insane to me, but we'll start switching gears. We'll start listening to people with more level-headed ideas.
And one of the major
good.
things that people go into debt about is the wedding. How do you know how much
Woo!
to budget for your wedding?
Yes, do not go into debt over your wedding. Point blank. Don't do it. Look, I've been married 15 years coming up. I have not thought about my wedding one time this week. I don't think I thought about it last week either.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure, you know what I'm saying? Do you see where I'm going with this?
I know
The
exactly
wedding
where you're
is
going.
the wedding is a great day. It's a great party, but it fades into the background of your life. You don't wake up every morning going, "Oh, my wedding was the best day of my life, and I'm so glad that I spent $80,000." You don't
Right.
do that.
Right.
It goes away, and you live your life. So I think in the moment when you're excited because you should be, and you're getting married and all that's going on, you can really get caught up. Don't get caught up, because what's more important is starting out your relationship with no debt.
And this seems completely level-headed.
Okay, I want to unpack this one before we wrap it up. So, ladies, again, when it comes to these weddings, if you are so fortunate, and believe me, you are fortunate if you are offered a marriage proposal in this day and age, because unfortunately, because of what we asked for, a lot of men are turning away from it. You've seen it in the chat. Be reasonable. I think you work with whatever is in your budget. If you are blessed to have family that can help, that's fine. But as this lady just said, the wedding is one day and it's going to pass. And one of the things that my man said is nobody talks about their wedding day as it was completely seamless. Now, maybe if you go to the Justice of the Peace and you don't have a big production, but all of the effort that you spend, there's going to be somebody complaining. There's going to be something that goes wrong. Something is going to happen. So try to make it a simple day that you, your husband, and your family will remember for the meaning of the ceremony. And I'll give you all another homework assignment. So, ladies, I love that she said she's been married 15 years. You don't want to start your relationship in debt. It just causes too many fights, and a lot of times marriages don't survive. I would challenge you, ladies, if you are so fortunate to know people that have been married for some time, I would say 7 to 10 years plus, ask them. Ask them about their wedding. Ask them, how they did it, how they came up with whatever decisions that they made. And I would bet that more often than not, the couples that are still together did something simple, something modest, and something that after the wedding, they were able to start their marriage off on a good foot. Sin G coming through, our new stream sponsor, with the $50 super chat. So generous. He says, think off season. So don't marry in prime season. Forget these June weddings and December weddings. All right. Get married off season. Summers, winter, or early winter or spring. Stay away from fall and summer. Another idea, have something like help us buy a house fund. I won our honeymoon to the Bahamas, and 2 years later, that's another option, ladies. Have your honeymoon later when you can afford it. But he said it was worth it. And I know Sinji and his beautiful bride have been together and enjoying their family. So believe me, you want the relationship that will last, not the bills that come from the wedding day. What would you add, Lucy?
I love those ideas. And yeah, off-season weddings are a little less costly. And again, I'm thinking, we as women, we're not trying to impress our men. We're trying to impress other women. Again, that's what it is. How big is my ring bigger than my wedding ring, or the engagement ring bigger than the other girls? It's that competition that it's unhealthy. And again, nobody cares. At the end of the day, it's going to be you and your husband, hopefully living a life where you're going to enjoy things that are much more worth your time and your money than a wedding. Again, yeah, you budget. Say, you know what, I'm willing to spend $5,000 on a wedding. You can save for that. That's reasonable. And I guarantee you that you can get maybe you can get a friend to a house that has a beautiful backyard, and you can get the friend to let you borrow the backyard, local catering. You can make it work. But don't think that you're going to have, what is it, champagne dreams with a beer budget. Come on now, that is unreasonable. It's that delusion. And again, and I have to blame the men for allowing the nonsense to continue up to that point. So I think it's also up to the man to say, no, this is the budget that we have. And again, our masculine men will tell us no. And and we're gonna have to stick to the budget or to whatever they say.
I couldn't agree more. All right, let's go back in here. The condemned says women who still want to get married to men today need to understand delayed gratification. Sign me up for that. Absolutely. I will wait. Let's have a small ceremony, go to the courthouse, and then I'll earn a party in 5 or 10 years. But delayed gratification. And ladies, the reason why is because men know that money doesn't grow on trees. It costs blood, sweat, and tears. So they're not going to just spend it carelessly. And the sooner you realize if you could show restraint in certain areas, believe me, your man is watching and he'll want to make up for it in time, in his own way. Let's continue.
And almost something you should already know. Pretty basic statements she said, but that has become increasingly uncommon now, especially in the age of social media. And I feel like people need to hear this more often because you're kind of getting into the keeping up with the Joneses level of weddings now, not even just, the house, the car, the white picket fence, all of that. I second the wedding mistake. We didn't go into debt and we're still together, but I'm sick over the money wasted. This is a little clip we've had in a video quite a while ago, several months ago, of somebody talking about her mistakes, but she does definitely make some pretty good points.
If there is one financial regret I have in my almost 30 years of living, it would be spending $30,000 on a wedding. The wedding industry has all of us girlies in a chokehold, making us feel like we need to prove something to everyone around us and have this massive, expensive, beautiful wedding.
And we have a comment from one of you guys about that video. Did anyone else notice that the 30K wedding girl isn't wearing a wedding ring? I guess she wanted the wedding more than the marriage. Seems to be increasingly more popular in today's age. The wedding girl is 100% correct. My wife and I spent less than $1,500 on rings, including our wedding and festivities. And most of that was on the ring. Still love each other to this day. And I'll just play the clip over here because it just has copyrighted music, but this kind of wedding, it's not really like the wedding as in the party, super expensive stuff. If you're in this kind of a relationship and decide to get married, I could almost guarantee that these are the ones that actually last in today's world, because you don't care about the super amazing venue or the destination wedding or the unbelievably expensive, custom made wedding dress and the cake and the decorations, etc., etc. If you genuinely want to get married because you actually love each other and you don't really care about the party, you will definitely last longer than most people in today's world. Here we have another comment from you guys. My husband and I were offered $30K to use for a wedding from my parents. We married in a court and used the money as a down payment on our first house. Best decision ever. And I think that is a very good transition into the next video.
Bride recently used her $50,000 wedding contribution from her parents as a down payment on a house and eloped instead, and the parents are furious. But her reason has a lot of Reddit users on her side. Let's just get into it. When the bride got engaged, her parents gave her $50,000 to use on her wedding, but instead she chose to elope and use the money for a down payment on a new house for her and her fiance. Her reasoning is that when her brothers graduated college, they received $50,000 for a new home, but she never received the same financial gift. When she questioned her parents about it, they suggested that the husband was supposed to provide for her in that way. Now a lot of Reddit users are calling out her parents' double standards. What do you think? Do you think it was her choice to do with that money as she pleases, or should the parents have gotten some say, or even at least been invited to a wedding?
So, I mean, this could go both ways. Now, I do think it's much better to put a down payment on a house. I mean, that's the beginning of your life. And that $50,000 can honestly really help you in life in the long run. Say if you had extra money saved up and then get a free $50,000 to put on a down payment in a house, you could either get a bigger house or a better house, a little bit more expensive, possibly get an even better deal in an area that's up and coming and the value of the property will go up. Just make it much better financially in life because of that. But at the same time, it was for a wedding. Like she said, her brothers got a free $50,000. I mean, it really is like a 50-50, but overall, I think it is a much better decision to buy your first house with your partner instead of spending it on a wedding. So, I mean, overall, this is a very controversial topic because you have a lot of people who don't want to get married at all. And I think that's pretty understandable. There's a lot of people who really want to get married for the wedding, it seems like, and get all that attention online from their family and their friends and possibly just strangers being jealous of them. And then they could get more attention and build off of that. And I think it is just one of the contributing factors to less marriages just happening in general. And then the, of course, wild divorce rate that we've had for so many years. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. YouTube thinks.
All right, so we're going to wrap this up, but I have to say again, thank you to Sinji for the $20 on top of the $50 that he already gave. So you are our stream sponsor with $70. That is incredibly generous. Thank you. And so Sinji says the lovely donations from our guest put a down payment on our house, and it was his Mrs. Sin's idea to do that. And I love that, ladies. This says a lot about her decision making, and I see one of the reasons why he's so attracted to her. Beautiful. So there you have it. He turned into the master negotiator with the coordinator and won. So again, ladies, believe me, I know. As your favorite extrovert, I love to celebrate. I don't know anyone more festive than me. Believe me, I understand. But we have to be reasonable. So go outside, cry in the corner, wipe your tears, and then come back. And this needs to be a conversation. You don't want to start your marriage off with tension financially. I think it would be much better to have a simple ceremony that you can afford. Send an announcement out to everybody because they don't care anyway. They're going to be smiling in your face and talking behind your back. And then start your marriage off with that joy of being able to hit the ground running and moving forward instead of now here come all the bills and the thrill of the day is gone and all those people who came and ate the chicken dinner, they're not going to help you pay those bills. So figure out how you can save, figure out what you can work with, and just have a modest wedding that matches who we really are. What would you add, Lucy?
it is concerning about the parents that gave the the bride $50,000 specifically for a wedding, and for them not to see how practical of a daughter they had raised. She decided to use the 50,000 for something that would work for them, and not the wedding that the parents wanted her to throw. That's really interesting, that behavior. So, again, it's one of those things. Why would a reasonable person be upset about a daughter using the $50,000 in a way that worked well for her?
Yeah, the only thing I would say about this, I understand. First of all, $50,000, what a blessing that anybody would give you such a large sum. And I agree, you should take most, if not all of that, and do something wise with it. I think buying a house makes a lot of sense. The only caveat for me as a mother, if my child, and I don't know if this is an only child, let's say not, but I do think about, and I don't know if this is selfish, but I do think about the boys getting married and wanting to be mother of the bride. Now, of course, once they're adults, they're going to do their own thing. But I can imagine if they eloped and I found out after the fact, that might be, like, could we do something small for the family? But again, once they're adults, it's their choice. But I would be incredibly proud if the boys had $50,000 and spent 5,000 of it on a wedding, a small family ceremony, and then 45,000, on a home. So that's the only thing that I'm thinking about. But I saw your comment and I agree with you. A gift is a gift. And Sinji coming through again, now up to $75. Thank you. Thank you. He says, our initial Justice of Peace ceremony the year prior, I love this, ladies, to the bigger ceremony trimmed costs bigly. It's not worth it, especially when divorce is years later. Negotiate. So that's the takeaway, ladies. So I would say this. Number one, count your blessings. If you are in a relationship that is heading towards marriage and you have a man who is willing to take that risk on you, I say run like you stole something. Don't steal anything, but understand how rare it is. And I think it's a wonderful quality to say, you know what, babe, we don't have to spend a lot. Honestly, we can just do something small, do something simple, maybe have a big party later. But I think, ladies, you add a lot of points if you at least come offering saying, I don't need all of that. This is for us. This is for our family. So hopefully these tips have been helpful. Hopefully some of the regrets that you see other people have gone through, you can learn from. What would you say to close us out, Lucy?
Look at Tara's comment. Pinterest and DIY is the thing. Yes, I did a lot of do-it-yourself, and our wedding over a decade ago was beautiful. Spent money on good food and enjoyed with friends and family, and still married. And I bet you that those DIY gatherings that you had, people are going to talk about it years later. Remember when we sat down and put the gifts together? Those are things. It's that personal, joy that you get from putting a wedding together on your own. That is something that is absolutely doable. And look, she's still married.
And that's what matters, ladies. We want you to win. We are the older women teaching the young. And believe me, what matters is, are you committed to this union? Through good times, through bad times, ups and downs. Life is going to throw so much at you. You want to start off your marriage on a positive note. You don't want the bills to start coming in and then you're bickering during your newlywed time. I absolutely love that. So my tangible tips, look at all the things that you want, prioritize, see where you can cut costs, negotiate. There's so many ways to do this, but ultimately make sure that you are reasonable and you don't create a memory that is a stain on that day, which should be a joyous occasion. And yes, absolutely, you can save a lot of money doing things yourself. Because at the end of the day, the people that you're trying to impress, they're going to find something wrong with it anyway. So you might as well do what you and your husband will be happy with for 10, 15, 30 years to come. So yes, thank you so much, Tara. So good to see you. A couple announcements. Tara is one of our students. We are the proud founders of the Finishing School for the Modern Woman. So ladies, we are coming up on our advanced class. Lucy and I are going to be teaching wife lessons. This is another 4-week Saturday school, all new content. We're going to talk about marriage. What is it? Nothing to do with the wedding. We're going to talk about what a husband is and what he is not. And we're going to talk about what a wife is. If your mother did not raise you to be a good woman to a good man, we are going to teach you as older women what men need in different phases of life. So you can go to teachablemomentswithmaggie.com and use the code WIFE for $50 off. We'll send you your workbooks. You get lifetime access and a lot of support. So if you are marriage minded or gentlemen, if you're vetting a woman and she needs a little help, Lucy and I will teach her. And again, that starts on Saturday, November 2nd. So send Jesus. Lots of ways to get the family to help. I love it. So thank you again to our donors tonight. Thank you, Mrs. Crotty Shetty. Thank you so much, Swag D. Enjoy your wrench. We appreciate it so much. But our stream sponsor tonight with $75 is Sinji. We appreciate the support and the donations, but most importantly, just being here. We're here with you all twice a week. And until next time, adios.